Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam to all the Vaishnavas listening to me. Today we will start from the second question of the chapter Cheating Propensities of Abhideya part of this book. Before that, let us offer our prayers at the lotus feet of Srila Gurudev and all our previous acharyas. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्त श्रीराधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तद्काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो श्रीवैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Second question is, which obstacles in the path of devotional service did Sriman Mahaprabhu count among Kutinati? Answer is, in the course of Sriman Mahaprabhu's instructions regarding giving up of Kutinati, he has enlisted activities like committing sinful activities, violence towards the living entities, and desire for material fame, which are detrimental to devotional service, as Kutinati. Third question, how did Mahaprabhu explain the word Kutinati? Answer is, Mahaprabhu explained the meaning of the word Kutinati by the words A bhala A manda, or this is good and this is bad. Fourth question is, how do people who are affected by Kutinati become offenders to the holy names and the Vaishnavas? Answer is, due to their pride for caste and beauty, people who are affected by Kutinati do not have firm faith in the remnants of Lord's foodstuffs, in the water that has washed at the feet of the Vaishnavas, and in the dust from the feet of the Vaishnavas. Therefore, they are always offenders at the feet of the holy names and the Vaishnavas. It is impossible for such people to chant the holy names of the Lord. There are some people who hate the pure Vaishnavas, and when those Vaishnavas are in distress, but Mahaprabhu has said, O Sanatana, the Vaishnavas do not hate you because you have scabies in your body. Fifth question, what kind of affection is cheating? Answer is, whenever the affection is applied only to the body, it is nothing but cheating. Sixth question is, why are the cheaters eager to worship the demigods and demigoddesses? Answer is, with a desire to receive palatable foodstuffs, particularly the goat flesh, many cheaters worship the imaginary demigods and goddesses while displaying symptoms of ecstatic love. In this way, they become the example of possessing pseudo-love of God. Seventh question is, are people who simply carry the burden of the scriptures not crooked? Answer is, Paramartha vicharai smin bhaya dosa vicharatah na kadachit dhata shraddha saragrahi janor bhavet. We have discussed the absolute truth in this book, so please excuse any grammar or language defects. Swan-like persons should not waste any time in this way. Those who criticize such external defects while studying this book will obstruct in its main purpose. Accepting the essence of the absolute truth and are not eligible to study this book, arguments born of childish education are despicable in serious subject matters. Eighth question is, what is the definition of pseudo love of God? Answer is, the pseudo love of God appears to be like the play of a drama, and it results only in sense gratification. Therefore, O mind, always give up sensual pleasures which are full of offenses. Ninth question. When does devotional service become ineffective? Answer is, when devotional service is performed with the desire to attain wealth, followers, and so on, then it is far away from pure devotional service, and as such it is not a limb of devotional service. With that, we complete 72nd chapter and move on to 73rd chapter, which is called Violence to the Living Entities. First question is, what is the way of removing the sinful mentality of committing violence to the animals? Answer is, Ma himsyat sarvani bhutani. One should not commit any violence to any living entity. By this statement of the Veda, violence to the animals has been prohibited. Until human beings give up slaughtering animals, enjoying an association with women, drinking wine, and becoming situated in the mode of passion, they may, in order to diminish such propensities, associate with women through marriage, kill animals in the sacrifice, and drink wine in particular circumstances. By doing so, when their propensities are diminished, they will gradually become relieved from such activities. This is the purport of the Vedas. To kill animals is not the instructions of the Vedas. Second question is, what is violence? Which violence must be given up? Answer is, persons who are attached to sinful activities generally become envious and violent to other living entities. Violence is a heinous sin. It is the duty of everyone to give up violence. Violence to human beings is the gravest sin. The gravity of violence depends on the degree of glories that person possesses to whom the violence is caused. Violence to the Brahmanas, to one's own relatives, to women, and to the Vaishnavas and to the spiritual master are extremely sinful. Violence to the animal is also not an ordinary sin. Killing of animals by selfish, greedy people is the result of the human being's abominable animalistic propensities. Unless human beings refrain from killing animals, their nature will not improve. Third question is, why is violence to the living entities detrimental to devotional service? Answer is, if one wants to eat the flesh of another living entity, then he has to kill that living entity. Therefore, any activity that encourages violence to the living entities is detrimental to devotional service. Fourth question, should a devotee of Hari maintain propensity for violence? Answer is, violence to other living entities is the root of all sinful activities. Therefore, it is graver than the sin. Those who are fortunate enough to engage in devotional service to Krishna naturally do not have any propensity for violence. Fifth question is, which activities are favorable for devotional service and which activities are unfavorable for devotional service? Answer is, those activities which aim at benefiting others are favorable for devotional service, and those activities which aim at causing violence to others are opposed to devotional service. Sixth question, how many kinds of violence are there? How should one utilize attachment and envy? Answer is, there are three kinds of violence, namely violence to the human beings, violence to the animals, and violence to the demigods. Violence is born from hatred. To become attracted to any object of enjoyment is called attachment, and to become detached from any object of enjoyment is called hatred. Proper attachment has been counted among piety. Improper attachment is called licentiousness. Hatred is just the opposite to the principle of attachment. Proper hatred is also counted among piety, but improper hatred is the root of violence and envy. Seventh question, is violence to the animals a religious principle for human beings? Answer is, the arrangement for killing animals in the sacrifices that has been prescribed in the Vedic literature is simply meant for gradually diminishing people's animalistic propensity. Actually, violence to the animals is the nature of the animals, not the human beings. Eighth question is, how many types of cruelty are there and what is the result? Answer is, there are two types of cruelty. They are cruelty against the human beings and cruelty against the animals. Cruelty against man and woman causes great disturbances in the world. As a result, compassion leaves the world and irreligiousness in the form of cruelty becomes prominent in the world. Ninth question, is cruelty against the animal be given up? Answer is, there is an arrangement for inflicting cruelty towards the animals in modern insignificant religious principles. However, this arrangement is bringing bad name to its founder. The heart of a kind-hearted person becomes shattered when they see how materialistic people give trouble to the bulls and horses that pull carts. One should give up such cruelty towards the animals. With that, we complete 73rd chapter and move on to 74th chapter, which is called committing offenses. First question, is it an offense to unknowingly engage in bad association? Answer is, even if you associate with non-devotees unknowingly, you commit an offense against devotional service. Second question, why offense is most grave? Why offense is most grave? Answer is, if one disregards and disrespects the Vaishnavas, he commits an offense. The sinful reaction are nullified simply by undergoing ordinary atonement, but offense is not nullified so easily. The sin is committed by both gross and subtle bodies. An offense degrades one's self-realization. Therefore, those who desire to worship the Supreme Lord must remain careful from committing any offenses. Third question, what is an offense? Answer is, when sinful activities are committed against the saintly persons and the Supreme Lord, it is called offense. Offense is most grave and therefore must be given up by all means. Fourth question, is it possible to attain Krishna Prema if one commits offenses? Answer is, one who does not attain love of God after worshipping Krishna after birth has certainly committed heaps of offenses. For only by chanting Krishna's name without offenses can one attain Krishna Prema. Fifth question, who are offenders at the feet of Bhakti Devi? Answer is, being induced by propensities that are detrimental to devotional service like envy, hatred, pride or desire or fame. Those who criticize others are offenders at the feet of Bhakti Devi. Sixth question, how do the Madhyama Adhikaris commit offenses against the Vaishnavas? Answer is, the counting of pure Vaishnavas begins with Madhyama Adhikaris because their goal of life is to serve the pure Vaishnavas. If Madhyama Adhikaris give up the considerations of Vaishnava and non-Vaishnava, then they commit an offense against the Vaishnavas. Seventh question, what is more offensive than a Vaishnava aparadha? Answer is, for a living entity, there is no offense graver than an offense committed against the Vaishnavas. Eighth question is, where is the test of persons who consider that the Vaishnavas belong to a particular caste? Answer is, those who become averse to accepting the remnants of a pure Vaishnava by considering him to be belonging to a particular caste are cheaters, and as such they cannot be counted as Vaishnavas. Those who are proud of their own caste, accepting remnants during the festivals is their real test. Ninth question. Why is it improper to consider that Vaishnavas belong to a particular caste? Answer is, if you are really afraid of cheating your own self, then you should not consider that the Vaishnavas belong to a particular caste. 10th question. Does criticizing faults of a Vaishnava results in blasphemy of a Vaishnava? Answer is, one who criticizes a Vaishnava's caste, a Vaishnava who unknowingly commits an offense, a Vaishnava's almost destroyed faults, and a Vaishnava's sinful behavior prior to his surrender is certainly a blasphemer of a Vaishnava. Such a person will never develop a taste for chanting the Lord's holy names. A pure Vaishnava is he who has taken shelter of pure devotional service. The above mentioned 4 types of faults may be occasionally found in him, but there is no possibility of having any other faults in him. 11th question. What is the easiest way to achieve devotional service? Answer is, one should give up the mentality of considering the Vaishnavas as belonging to a particular caste, and then he should take the dust from the feet of a devotee who is fully engaged in chanting the Lord's holy names and respectfully smear it all over his body. 12th question. Is it a seva aparadha to offer obeisance to anyone inside the temple? Answer is, one should not offer obeisance to any one other than the Supreme Lord inside the temple. However, one must offer obeisances to one's spiritual master inside the temple. 13th question is, what is the definition of a Krishna conscious family? Answer is, in a Krishna conscious family there is no cheating, there is only simplicity. Therefore, there is no question of any offenses. 14th question. To whom should a pious householder give alms? Answer is, by giving alms to the illegitimate professional beggars, the householders commit an offense. As a result, they gradually fall down. During the revolution of the society, this sinful practice must be checked. Then the condition of the pious householder will improve. The distress of the beggars will be destroyed and the general advancement of the society will take place. Apatre diyete danam tat danam tamasam vidu. Giving charity to an unqualified person is an act in the mode of ignorance. Following this statement of the Supreme Lord, one should give charity only to the qualified candidates. 15th question. It is not an offense to hear or sing publicly about the conjugal pastimes of Sri Radhakrishna. Answer is, to sing and hear about Sri Radhakrishna's conjugal pastimes are the principal and eternal mode of worship of the Lord. However, to sing about these pastimes before ordinary people is improper and offensive. Apana bhajana katha na kahibe yat tatha. One should not disclose one's own process of devotional service to anyone. If one is to follow this instruction of the Acharya, then it becomes an offense to hear the recitation of Krishna's conjugal pastimes from the mouths of the professional singers. 16th question. Is it not an offense to blaspheme a Vaishnava by finding in him some behaviors opposed to the scriptures? Answer is, if there happens to be some uncivilized activities in a Vaishnava according to his karma, it is an offense to consider such activities as uncivilized. Even though there might be some particular improper conducts in a Vaishnava that are opposed to the Smriti literature, still he should be considered saintly, otherwise one will commit an offense against the chanting of the holy names. 17th question. Who are responsible for committing offenses against the services of the Lord? Answer is, offenses against the Lord's service are committed in regard to the service of the Lord's deity form. There are some offenses to be avoided by those who worship the deities. There are some offenses to be avoided by those who install the deities. There are some offenses to be avoided by those who go to see the deity form of the Lord. And there are some offenses to be avoided by all. 18th question. What are the 32 offenses against the service to the Lord? Answer is: first, one should not enter the temple of the deity in a car or palanquin or with shoes on the feet. Second, one should not fail to observe the various festivals for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such as Janmashtami and Radha and Ratha Yatra. Third, one should not avoid bowing down before the deity. Fourth, one should not enter temple to worship the Lord without having washed one's hand and feet after eating. Fifth, one should not enter the temple in a contaminated state. Sixth, one should not bow down on one hand. Seventh, one should not circumambulate in front of Sri Krishna. Eighth, one should not spread his legs before the deity. Ninth, one should not sit before the deity holding the ankles, elbows or knees with one's hand. 10th, one should not lie down before the deity of Krishna. 11th, one should not accept prasad before the deity. 12th, one should never speak a lie before the deity. 13th, one should never talk very loudly before the deity. 14th, one should not talk with others before the deity. 15th, one should not cry or howl before the deity. 16th, one should not quarrel or fight before the deity. 17th, one should not chastise anyone before the deity. 18th, one should not be charitable to beggars before the deity. 19th, one should not speak very harshly to others before the deity. 20th, one should not wear a fur blanket before the deity. 21st, one should not eulogize or praise anyone else before the deity. 22nd, one should not speak any ill names before the deity. 23rd, one should not pass air before the deity. 24th, one should not fail to worship the deity according to one's means. 25th, one should not eat anything which is not offered first to Krishna. 26th, one should not fail to offer fresh fruit and grains to Krishna according to the season. 27th, after food has been cooked, no one should be offered any foodstuff unless it is first offered to the deity. 28th, one should not sit with his back towards the deity. 29th, one should not offer obeisances silently to the spiritual master, or in other words, one should recite aloud the prayers to the spiritual master while offering obeisances. 30th, one should not fail to offer some praise in the presence of the spiritual master. 31st, one should not praise himself before the spiritual master. 32nd, one should not deride the demigods before the deity. These seva pradhas have been described in the Puranas. 19th question. What are the different kinds of offenses and what are their symptoms? Answer is: although offenses are of many kinds, they are mainly divided into three categories: Vaishnava Pradha, Seva Pradha and Nama Pradha. In the Skanda Puran, the 6 Vaishnava Pradhas are listed as follows: to kill a Vaishnava, to blaspheme a Vaishnava, to hate a Vaishnava, to not offer respect to a Vaishnava, to display anger to a Vaishnava, and to not feel happy on seeing a Vaishnava. By committing these offenses, one certainly falls down. No practitioner of devotional service should commit these offenses. The Seva Pradhas are considered in regard to the deity worship. There are 10 types of Nama Pradhas. 20th question. Why professional recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam is rejected? Answer is, give up this business of professional recitation immediately. You are supposed to be greedy for drinking the mellows of ecstatic love. So do not commit any offense against the mellows of ecstatic love. According to Taittiriya Upanishad 2/7, Rasovai Sah, Krishna is non-different from the mellows of ecstatic love. There are many types of professions described in the Shastras for maintaining one's livelihood. You should take up those. Do not earn money by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam to ordinary people. If you find qualified audience, then recite Srimad Bhagavatam with great ecstasy without accepting any salary or fee. 21st question. Are the sellers of Harinam not offenders? Answer is, there are many other ways of earning one's livelihood, and one should maintain his life by following them. To earn money by selling Harinam and to consider this money as a means of one's livelihood is extremely improper and opposed to devotional service. It is impossible for both who sell Harinam and who purchase it to attain love of God, which is the fruits of chanting Harinam. In fact, by doing so, such people simply accumulate sin. Money is not the price for Harinam. Faith is the only price for Harinam. Therefore, it is the duty of everyone to faithfully chant and hear the holy names of Hari. 22nd question. What are the symptoms, activities and fate of those who commit offense against the abode of the Lord? Answer. When, with a desire to fulfill their own self-interest and due to envy, some people are creating obstacles in the path of improving the standard of Sri Mayapura. On seeing the propensity of the Dham, these people have now become hopeless nowadays. Being controlled by intense envy, a few of them have even begun to publish articles against the Dham in some small magazines. There is no doubt that Mahaprabhu will soon destroy them. The amazing factor is that from a long time some people has been engaged in accumulating money and enjoying the association of women while hiding the actual glories of Sri Mayapura. As soon as the glories of Mayapura began to manifest, these disciples of Kali began to conceal the glories of Mayapur in various forms and tactics. But both the Supreme Lord and the Eternal Truth are unconquerable. For the last 2 years, these disciples of Kali have been very embarrassed. The society of devotees no longer trusts them. Therefore, they are making fools of themselves. What a game plan of Kali. They are trying to prove no moon as full moon and get away with it. But suddenly people have understood their game plan and they are laughing at them. Now everyone has understood that Sridham Mayapur is the crest jewel of the entire Navadvipa. With that, we complete 74th chapter and move on to 75th chapter, which is called Blaspheming the Vaishnavas. First question. What should one do if one happens to hear the blasphemy of a pure Vaishnava? How should one deal with a so-called guru who indulges in blasphemy of the Vaishnavas? Answer is, devotees who are engaged in regulative devotional service should neither approve nor support the blasphemy of the Supreme Lord or the devotees. If such blasphemy is taking place in an assembly, then if one is able, one should immediately protest. If protest does not yield any result, then one should remain like a deaf and not pay any attention to such blasphemy. If one is able to do even that, then he should immediately leave that place. If one hears blasphemy of the Vaishnavas even from the mouth of his spiritual master, then one should humbly caution him. If such a spiritual master is still extremely envious to the Vaishnavas, then one should give up him and take initiation from a qualified spiritual master. Second question, what is the disadvantage of hearing blasphemy of the Vaishnavas? Answer is, a practitioner of devotional service should never hear blasphemy of Lord Krishna and the blasphemy of the Vaishnavas. Wherever such activities are taking place, he should leave that place. One who is weak-hearted hears blasphemy of Krishna and the Vaishnavas for the sake of others, and thus gradually falls from the platform of devotional service. Third question, why blasphemy of the devotees is the most grave among all offences? Answer is, it is a great offence to blaspheme a devotee who has taken shelter of the Lord's holy names and who has given up the process of karma, dharma, janana and yoga. Because the holy names of Hari cannot tolerate the blasphemy of those who are spreading the glories of holy names all over the world. If one gives up blaspheming the devotees who are engaged in chanting the holy names and chants the holy names in their association, by considering them as the topmost devotees, then he will soon attain the mercy of the holy names. Fourth question, what is the result of blasphemy of the Vaishnavas? Answer is, one should resolve to respect the Vaishnavas and give up the association of non-Vaishnavas. The glories of the holy name will never manifest in the hearts of those who blaspheme the Vaishnava devotees. Fifth question, what are the 6 types of Vaishnava Aparadha and what the result? Answer is, a foolish person who blasphemes a pure devotee goes to hell along with his forefathers. Any person who kills a Vaishnava, who blasphemes a Vaishnava and hates a Vaishnava, who does not offer obeisances to a Vaishnava, and when he meets one and who feels unhappy on seeing Vaishnava certainly goes to hell. Sixth question, what is the result of hearing blasphemy of the Vaishnavas? Answer is, a person who does not immediately leave that place where the Supreme Lord or the Vaishnavas are being criticized loses all his piety and degrades himself. Seventh question, can a pure Vaishnava become the object of blasphemy? Answer is, if one is found to be inclined towards sinful activities, then he cannot be counted among the Vaishnavas. Even the neophyte Vaishnavas has no taste for sin or piety. A pure Vaishnava is faultless, therefore he is above blasphemy. One who blasphemes such a Vaishnava simply attributes false accusation on himself. Eighth question, which topics do the envious miscreants discuss in the course of their blasphemy of the Vaishnavas? Answer is, there are 3 topics with which the envious sinful people can criticize. The faults of a Vaishnava before the awakening of his Krishna consciousness becomes the subject matter of their discussion. As soon as devotional service to the Lord is awakened, all his faults are eradicated. The process of eradication takes some time. During this period, those envious miscreants criticize the devotee for his leftover sins. The third subject of their discussion is that although a pure Vaishnava has no desire for committing any sin, yet sometimes by chance he may commit a sin. However, such a fault does not last long in a Vaishnava. Nevertheless, the envious sinful people criticize such a Vaishnava and fall into the pit of formidable Vaishnava Aparadha. Ninth question, how should one become careful while discussing the characteristics of a Vaishnava? Answer is, one should never discuss about the faults of a Vaishnava prior to his awakening of Krishna consciousness unless it is done with a good purpose. One should never blaspheme a Vaishnava by discussing his leftover faults after awakening of his Krishna consciousness. 10th question, Should the old, suddenly committed or almost destroyed faults of a Vaishnava be discussed without a good purpose? Answer is, the almost natural sinful activities that accompany a person from before he awakens his Krishna consciousness gradually diminish by strength of devotional service and soon gets exhausted. By discussing these faults of a Vaishnava without a good purpose, one commits the offense of blasphemy of the Vaishnavas. In spite of seeing some accidental fault, one should not blaspheme a Vaishnava. 11th question. By criticizing which faults of a Vaishnava does one commit Vaishnava Apradha? Answer is, by criticizing a Vaishnava's accidentally committed sinful activities without a good intention, one commits the offense of blaspheming a Vaishnava. The main point is that if one attributes false accusations on a Vaishnava and criticizes his above mentioned three faults, then such a person commits an offense against the chanting of the holy names. As a result, pure name of God does not manifest in his heart. Unless the pure name of God manifests in one's heart, one cannot become a Vaishnava. 12th question. Is criticizing others without good purpose desirable? Answer is, discussing about others' faults with a good purpose has not been condemned in the Shastras. There are three kinds of good purposes. If by discussing about a person's faults, that person is benefited in any way, then such a discussion is auspicious. If discussing a person's sinful activities brings about auspiciousness to the world, then it is counted as a pious activity. 13th question. Is it an offense against the Vaishnavas to criticize the characteristics of the non-devotees in order to reveal the glories of the Vaishnavas? Answer is, when a spiritual master is requested by his disciple to ascertain a Vaishnava, the spiritual master, with a desire to benefit his disciple and the world, ascertains the Vaishnava by declaring the sinful people as non-Vaishnavas. To give up the association of the sinful hypocrites with a desire to take shelter at the feet of Vaishnavas does not result in blasphemy of the Vaishnavas or offending the Vaishnavas. With that, we complete 75th chapter and move on to 76th chapter, which is called Mental Speculation. First question. Why is the meditation to the conditioned souls mental speculation? Why is the meditation of the conditioned souls mental speculation? Answer is, meditation is the function of the mind. Until the mind is purified and spiritualized, meditation can never become spiritual. Second question. What is the conception of the mental speculators regarding the soul, the material world and the liberation? Answer is, some people guess that the soul was first born in the gross world in the form of a human being. The Supreme Lord has created this material world with the desire that the living entities would gradually advance by following religious principles. Some people say that this material world will become a happy place, like heaven, through human intelligence. Yet, there are others who have decided that at the end of the body, they will achieve liberation in the form of nirvana. All these conclusions are as useless as blind people ascertaining the shape of an elephant. Swan-like people do not enter into this type of useless argument because no one can come to the proper conclusion by human intelligence. Third question. Is mundane selflessness not a figment of imagination? Answer is, the existence of selflessness is impossible. Von Halbach wrote a book called The System of Nature in 1770. In fact, in the book, he has specifically said there is no selflessness in the material world at all. We call the art of becoming happy by others' happiness religion. We also find that the word selflessness is as useless as the flower in the sky. To achieve happiness without any difficulty is the goal of selflessness. People think that if others respect them as selfless persons, then they will get their job done easily. Are motherly affection, brotherly affection, friendly affection, and love between man and woman selfless? If there were no personal happiness in these acts, no one would have done those. Some people even give up their lives in order to attain personal happiness. Fourth question. Is it reasonable to accept a separate existence of the Satan? Answer is, instead of imagining a strange matter like Satan, one should carefully try to understand the science of nescience. With that, we complete 76th chapter and now start 77th chapter, which is called Impersonal Philosophy. First question is, who are Mayavadis? Answer is, those who accept all spiritual objects as illusion, consider Brahman as beyond illusion, consider the Supreme Controller as affected by illusion, and consider the bodies of all the material of the Lord's incarnation as illusion. They say that the functions of Maya are present in the constitution of the living entities. In other words, the false egos of the living entities are created by Maya. When the living entities are liberated, there is no such state for them as pure living entities. They also teach that after liberation, the living entities become one with Brahman. With that, we conclude today's session. Continue hereafter in the next session. My sincere obeisances at the lotus feet of Srila Gurudev and the divine couple Sri Radha Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.